Well, my friends, family, and colleagues, today we'll discuss a little bit more about some problems with salt. Now we know that table salt is extremely toxic, extremely toxic. It has anti-caking substances. It has added aluminum oxide, which is toxic, white powder, and has added potassium iodide, which actually is harmful to kidneys. So, as an alternative, viable alternative, we are given the Himalayan salt, which, on the other hand, is radioactive. Now, nobody tells you that, but it's radioactive. And it was pushed as a viable alternative to table salt. In the case, people start discovering that table salt is toxic, here is healthy alternative. And health food stores are full of this. They will make lamps out of the salt. And then people start having headaches and blurred vision because of radioactive poisoning. Now, there is another thing with Himalayan salt, as it is with all rock salts. In the past, I thought that the rock salt that we find in landmines is basically from trapped sea once when the area was submerged, and later on this water slowly seeps out and salt remains. Well, a little bit of salt may remain in an area like that, but what happens when you put salt in the water? It turns water into colloid. And the salt that we find there, those are minerals that have been most likely chelated through plants, so liquefied, and then ended up in water. And they are very small. So if water seeps through, well, it will seep through with the salt. If you want to separate salt from seawater, you need very, very fine membrane, and water has difficulty to go through this, so it has to be done under high pressure. And this is your typical desalination system. So this is not happening in some trapped water in some cave. If water can escape, it is going to escape with the salt. What is characteristic for animal or human being? That we have these salts in our body, 12 different salts. They are positioned in different areas for a particular purpose. What is salt? Salt is a combination of two elements, of which one is positively and one negatively charged. So anion and cation combined together create salt. And characteristic of salts in the body is that they are combined with magnesium. Very important. Now, what is the property of magnesium? Magnesium attracts humidity. So if air is humid and you have magnesium, well, magnesium starts sweating because it attracts humidity and it starts diluting itself. Salt in the body is in this way, is bonded with magnesium. Now, if you have this salt out of the water, the longer it is out of the water, well, it may dehydrate, but then any moisture that is around will be attracted to the magnesium, and the salt will start sweating. And it will lose magnesium, and it will lose many minerals with it as it drips through and gets dispersed, goes soaked into soil and ends up in the river, streams, and sea at the end. Now, why am I saying this? Because there are many people in the United States that use Redmond salt. They hear about the protocol and they learn that we should use not refined and not iodized salt. And they check the label, and Redmond salt is exactly what they look for then. Well, the only problem is that Redmond is not on seashore. It's in the mountains, which means it's not a sea salt, it's a rock salt. Now, how did the salt get there? Now, it is not as I thought, and we all thought, most likely, that sometime in the past, maybe a million years ago, there was underwater and salt got there. No, it's not true. What happens is that when we die, we crystallize. Not always, but under certain circumstances, we will crystallize. And then you will find these crystals. Salt is a crystal. You will find them in the soil. There is a site on YouTube called Mud Fossil University where Roger is explaining and showing actually pictures. Now with satellite orbiting and having access to this, we can check the ground, and he is investigating this and then picking samples from the ground, analyzing them, and it appears that our planet is composed of dead organisms, huge giants, giant fish, giant dragons, giant humans. Obviously, planet Earth was not this size in the past. It must have been much, much larger to support such a life. And some information is coming that it was a planet called Tiamon. It was huge, and it exploded, was hit, or something happened, and fractured. And Earth is part of this. And we still can see the forms of these huge animals, even giants, as a landscape. You may think it's a mountainous terrain, and it could be just head of a giant. Again, check the videos. They're very interesting, and I have no doubt that what Roger discovered is true. Even the tissues looks like it. There is a cave, maybe 5 meters high, oval shape. It has the shape of a vagina. You go in, and the formation, rock formation inside, it actually looks like uterus. So, no doubt in my mind that what he's discovering is true. These salt deposits could be mussels. Mussels are loaded with salt, with minerals. I always say that animals do not need, carnivore animals, do not need to supply salt, because when they eat flesh, they're receiving all the minerals they need. They just need a little bit of water. That's all. More vegetable the animal eats, the more supplementation of salt it is required. And herbivores that have rumen, they need to be supplied with salt. In the nature, they know where to go to get it. So if we take them out of nature, we domesticate them and keep them in a closed area, we have to supply them the salt. Otherwise, they are going to wither away. Now, Revlon salt you can use, but it is not going to be the same. It is going to be low in magnesium, which is an important thing. So it's a far cry from the freshly harvested sea salt. And because magnesium levels on sea salt are very high. And when I talk about sea salt, people ask, okay, so which salt I can use? I said, well, it makes no sense for you to buy bag salt from Sea of Cortez if you are living in Scandinavia or in, I don't know, India. The transportation costs you 10 times more than salt is worth. Every country that has access to sea is harvesting salt. In Croatia, there are several plants. But then again, not everybody is properly labeling their salt. For my friends in Croatia, I heard that, Paška and Ninska salt from island of Pag and near town of Nin, they are having Solana. They are all on, have access to sea, Adriatic Sea, and they're harvesting salt. And most of it is iodide and refined with anti-aging substances, so it can be poured through salt shaker. But each one of them has also not iodide salt and says not refined. And one friend of mine from Slovenia started my protocol using salt from Piran, which is town on the seashore in Slovenia. And she was doing well. But then reading that I was recommending Paška salt, because again, this is information I received from my friends. I left Croatia, went to still Yugoslavia in late 70s. I went to the United States. And I don't have even contacts there. Most of my friends, from high school, we keep contact occasionally, but it's a trivial stuff. Even my friends from high school, from my class who are doctors, they don't want to know nothing what I'm doing. They're not interested. Because again, it interferes with their money-making business. And I rely on what I hear from people that follow the protocol, and I share with the rest of you. So this friend of mine from Slovenia, after initially seeing improvements, all of a sudden she started feeling again like she was feeling before. She had a problem, so-called problem with thyroid. She was on thyroid medication, loss of energy, problem with heart, bradycardia, sometimes accelerated, sometimes slowed down. And when she switched to Pashka Sol, little by little, she started feeling again the same symptoms as before. So she went to have her blood checked, and again, problem with thyroid gland, and she started having a lump in thyroid gland. And I was not suspecting this all. So I asked about food. Did she change anything? What happened here? Well, I don't think that even she told me at that moment that she switched salt. But then after we started communicating, she said, yeah, I switched to this salt. So I said, change back and see. Well, she did more than that. She actually called the Solana, the plant in Pag, got supervisor on, and started talking, and discovered that, yes, they are not so-called refining the salt, they are not putting iodine in it, but they're putting anti-caking substance. It's not, it is not aluminum oxide, but some other substance she mentioned. Well, supposedly not harmful. All her symptoms got back. She even took blood analysis, and again, her hormones, thyroid hormones, were off. So she switched back to her salt that she started with from Piranska salt. It's a Solana in Slovenia on the seashore. And within days, everything cleared up. Puffiness went away, heart stabilized, the lump in thyroid start fading away. So here we can see how big damage one so-called mildly toxic additive can do to the body. I'm sharing always what comes, to me, so this way we all have benefit of this information. I always recommend taking salt from where you live. If there is access to seawater, I would advise against the salt from a Dead Sea because it's not circulating sea. It's a localized sea. I don't know what kind of contaminants it has. We want salt that is taken out from circulating sea that is connected with other seas. No matter where on this planet, but that it circulates, that is not locked in one place. So we have to be careful because small amounts of salt, no big deal. But when you're following cellular's protocol, you are consuming huge amounts of salt because you are using the salt not only to maintain the hydration of your blood, but to trigger detox and hydrate and detoxify at the same time, which increases the need for blood plasma tremendously. And big amounts of plasma have to be absorbed. One to cleanse, one to hydrate. Because when you are in a hydration, or let's put it this way, blood is almost always slightly toxic because we eat incorrectly, which makes cellular hydration problematic. And body has to detoxify. Now, lower it is on plasma, the less it is going to part with the plasma. Because to detoxify, to cleanse, well, it needs the plasma. When you are sweating, again, you're not sweating water, you're sweating plasma. Just lick your skin, it's salty. Same is with urine, same with excrement. So you have to replenish what you lose. If you eat meat, no big deal. Animal is well mineralized, otherwise it cannot survive. And this is what your rock salt comes from. It's from crystallized minerals. In certain circumstances, the animal is not going to decay otherwise, but it will crystallize. You can find crystallized heart, crystallized kidneys, crystallized organs in general. You can find them as rocks. You break them and they're full of beautiful crystal. Wow, how did that happen? Well, it's organ. Of different colors, depending, again, how much iron it has or how much copper it will contain, or zinc. Those are very minerals which are saturated in the body. With the example of my friend, we can see how even when the blood is clean, when we are taking salt, we always clean the blood. But if there are some toxins still, well, cells will not hydrate. But since blood is clean, as soon as you take the toxin from a blood out, this little thing that was there, you very quickly start having benefits because the absorption automatically increases, and it can even trigger the osmotic pump, cellular osmotic pump, to start hydrating fast and eliminating toxins, and you feel quick improvements on the way how you feel and how you look. I've seen it very often that people were following the protocol but with some error, and they had a diarrhea and they urinated, yeah, but the thing that they were focused on, being it hernia, being it some nodule that is visible, being it some inflammation, it was not going away. Well, the only reason why it's not going away because there is some toxin in the blood that prevents cellular hydration. And this toxin can be from some plant that you are eating, could be, like in this case, some additive being put into a salt or into the food that you are buying, or in the food that animals are being fed. And then when you're consuming it, the only thing is that animals, they also cleanse. So you give something toxic to animal, well, animal is going to cleanse it. It is not going to deposit it unless it cannot cleanse. It's low on plasma. Usually this doesn't happen with animals because we do not give animals salt that contains anti-caking substance. And we don't give them purposely poison salt because this would impede on the production. You would not get the quantity of the milk that you want. You would not get the quality of the meat. You would not get the quantity of the eggs that you want. So animals have to receive their salt. And we are giving them good salt. We are only poisoning people, not animals. So if the salt, not refined and not iodized salt, is expensive in your health food store, now these health food stores, this is a scheme on its own. This is why now you have a health food department in pharmacies, because it's the same crap. Only comes from a plant, and this one is chemically manufactured based on a plant. So if the salt is expensive, buy salt for animals. Use that one. Even better than that, who is very sensitive on quality of salt are the sea creatures, sea fish. You have to give them really good quality sea salt mixed with water if you are having salt aquarium with salt fishes and sea life. So if you want good quality salt, go to pet shop and buy salt for sea aquarium. I bet it is much cheaper than salt in health food store. Celtic sea salt, very expensive. There's no reason for it other than they're skimming you. So find cheaper alternative, but make sure it is not refined sea salt without any additives in it. And don't be lazy. Call the company and see what they do with the salt. Here in Peru, I went down to check where they take the salt. And they're not doing anything because, well, for the salt I buy. Here in Peru, you cannot even buy salt unless it was iodized. It will not pass the inspection. It's illegal to sell it. But everything I do is illegal because if you want to be legal, you have to keep poisoning people. So when we're talking about health, if you want to have a license and do your trade legally, you have to poison people. If you do not want to poison them, then you cannot get license. You cannot get license selling salt that was not poisoned first. So this should be obvious to everybody that every country is run by the same cabal, which now we are fighting. And it is not animosity of people against people. We are being brainwashed through our politicians and made to hate each other. Nowhere is it more obvious than in the United States with so-called racism, which is promoted through schools. Black Lives Matter. Nobody else's life matter. Only Black Lives Matter. Safe spaces. It's a safe space for everybody except white male. What kind of safe space is that? And there is not racism? Brainwashed schmucks, morons, go along with this crap. hopefully not much longer, all this thing will crash. In the meantime, make sure you check, you talk to your friends who are on protocol already, how they feel with the salt that they are taking. Use that salt. I have these salts on my site as in my supplement section, which there are no supplements that I offer except salt. And I listed few salts that were recommended to me by people. Pashka salt is not there. So you can check that. For Americans, salt that comes from Sea of Cortez is a good salt. Doesn't have to be Baja Gold. Baja Gold was rinsed from sediment. So it's whiter because it does not have sediment. Usually you have sediment where you scoop the salt, which gives salt the color. The darker the salt is, the more sediment it has in it. Not because it is more natural. Natural sea salt is white. Slightly grayish, but white. If it comes in the colors, it's from sediment. And is that desirable? Not really. Is it bad? Not really. But if sediment bothers you, then if you're living in the United States, you can get Baja Gold because it has no anti-caking substances, has nothing added to it. It has just been rinsed of sediment. So it's a good alternative for white salt. If a little bit sediment on the bottom doesn't bother you, any salt harvested and not refined is fine. My salt I buy has sediment, but not much. Very little. After several glasses, if I don't drink them all the way, just a little bit left, little by little, it sediments. So you can see a little, like a sand type of the sediment in there. It goes to the bottom. I don't bother with it. So we're all different with our affinities. So do what suits you the best. In the meantime, be careful about your food, where it comes from, eggs, how they feed chicken. I just received a video from my wife received it from our friend from Spain. She bought eggs, they cooked them, and the eggs was like a rubber. Even the egg yolk, when she pushed it, it popped back like a rubber. So she checked, eggs came from China. China, as Mr. President Trump is saying. Yes, a lot of shit comes from China. Like plastic rice, for example. Now we're having plastic eggs. And plastic meat, most likely. Don't buy products from China. Okay. Enough with my rant. Thank you for listening. Till next time. Love you all. God bless us all. Well, I just have to show you this, guys. I wanted to check how I should name my art in my video for today. So I just checked Pashka Sol, and what do I find here? Pashka Sol, the latest Croatian product protected by the European Union. So why would devil protect this salt? Now we know. They purposely make it toxic.